No one in Santiago expected that General Augusto Pinochet would reach beyond Chile's borders and help knit together a secret, murderous network that stretched across an entire continent. Yet in the mid-1970s, that is precisely what happened. A conspiracy of dictatorships, intelligence chiefs, and shadowy operatives who traded prisoners, death lists, and secrets under the codename Operation Condor. To understand Condor, you must go back to a continent convulsed by coup and counter-coup. After Chile's 1973 overthrow of Salvador Allende, the region's right-wing militaries, from Argentina to Paraguay, Bolivia to Uruguay, faced the same fear. Leftist movements, exiled activists, and international solidarity. In November 1975, a meeting in Santiago quietly formalized cooperation. Intelligence chiefs, including Chile's Manuel Contreras of DINE and representatives from Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Bolivia, and Brazil, agreed to share information, carry out cross-border renditions, and eliminate perceived subversion. What followed was not tidy geopolitics, but a campaign of terror. Condor's operators used surveillance files and CIA-supplied intelligence to hunt people who thought they were safe because they had fled across a border. Targets were kidnapped from streets in Buenos Aires, pulled from apartments in São Paulo, followed into exile in Europe and the United States. The methods were gruesome and consistent: torture, disappearances, car bombs, and in some cases, assassinations carried out thousands of miles from the dictator's home soil. The conspiracy produced a chain of crimes that shocked the world. In 1974, former Chilean commander Carlos Prats was killed by a car bomb in Buenos Aires, a warning that exile could be a death sentence. In 1976, Orlando Letelier, a former Chilean ambassador, was killed by a car bomb in Washington, D.C. His colleague Ronnie Moffat also died. Those murders on foreign soil exposed Condor's reach and brazenness. In Argentina, the military's dirty war coincided and sometimes coordinated with Condor activity. Thousands were disappeared, many transported clandestinely across borders to secret detention centers. For years, the conspiracy thrived behind official deniability. Documents were classified, files shredded, and operatives given plausible legal cover. But cracks appeared. Survivors, families, and investigative journalists began to stitch together the pattern: shared lists, synchronized arrests, and covert flights. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, declassified U.S. documents and judicial inquiries in South America revealed what had long been suspected: that American intelligence agencies had known of Condor's structure, at minimum exchanged information, and in some cases provided training and logistical support to security services implicated in human rights abuses. Those revelations opened judicial doors. Former DINA chief Manuel Contreras was tried and convicted in Chile. Argentina, following the restoration of democracy, pursued cases against military figures. Judges in other countries issued warrants. The arrest of Augusto Pinochet in London in 1998, on a Spanish warrant linked to human rights crimes, was a symbolic blow against the cloak of impunity that had protected Condor's architects. Files produced in courtrooms and archives named names, mapped networks, and gave legal weight to what victims' families had long insisted. These were not isolated atrocities, but a coordinated transnational campaign. Operation Condor left a scar across South America. Thousands were murdered or disappeared. Entire communities were silenced. But the conspiracy's exposure also showed how truth can outpace secrecy. Testimonies, court records, and declassified cables have forced governments to reckon, courts to indict, and historians to document a deliberate program of repression. Decades later, the work of memory and justice continues. For families searching for remains, for lawyers pressing extradition orders, and for societies trying to learn, Condor's story is a warning. Secrecy and state power, when combined without accountability, can become a continent-wide instrument of disappearance. The conspiracy that began in those small, hushed rooms in Santiago transformed borders into hunting grounds and taught a generation that the battle for human rights must cross borders too.